All rise. Trial court is now in session.
Please be seated. Defendant and the attorneys are present. The jury is now present in the jury box. Members of the jury, I think we got this problem fixed. There are no guarantees. I remind you that you're making your oath.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Cochran, I'm going to back you up a couple questions because I didn't get everything recorded. I believe the question that I first asked you was the day that he got out of the hospital, and I believe your testimony was the 22nd, is that
I believe so,
correct?
yes.
And that the day that he went in was on the 18th?
Correct.
And then I asked you what type of medication he was taking when he got out.
Right.
And,
Okay.
go ahead.
I don't know exactly which medications. There's quite a few, but there was quite a few sedatives and an antidepressant.
And then I asked you about whether or not he had been to North Point at all?
I don't believe so, but I don't know 100%.
And do you know who he was counseling with in Iron Mountain?
The name? Not offhand, no.
Was it somebody that the hospital in Rhinelander referred him to?
No, I think it was, it might have been off a list of references. I think he had called or something to find him. It was a gentleman in Iron Mountain.
Okay. And somebody that he had seen 3 times since he was released?
I believe so, yes.
Was his average schedule like once a week?
I believe so, yes.
So when I went back and looked at the calendar, it's actually less than a month after he got out that Chris was murdered, correct?
Yes.
Now, had he been to the doctor in that time frame before Chris's murder for any reason?
For any reason? Yes.
Okay. When did he go to the doctor?
I know he went to the emergency room. As far as exact dates for like a doctor's visit, I don't know. I know he went to the doctor a lot.
Okay. And he went to the ER on, what did he go to the ER for?
For his back, he needed medication.
And does October 13th sound correct to you?
Yes.
The day before Chris was murdered?
Correct.
Now, was he taking his medication before Chris's murder?
Which medication?
Any of his medication? Do you know?
Yeah, for at least a week, maybe longer.
At least a week, maybe longer, but
He was taking. He didn't like the way it made him tired all the time.
you indicated they were sedatives, right?
Sedatives, antidepressants, and antipsychotics.
And was he sleeping 10 to 12 hours as he indicated to the detectives?
I can't be for sure. I wasn't there for 10 or 12 hours when he was sleeping all the time.
Well, you weren't working at that time, right?
Correct.
So where were you at?
I wasn't sleeping for 10 or 12 hours.
No, was he sleeping for 10 or 12 hours?
I don't know for certain.
Now, was it true that he was down on himself because he couldn't function physically?
That's what he said.
And did he also say that he couldn't help you around the house
That's what he said.
and he couldn't earn money
That's what he said.
and he couldn't satisfy you sexually either, right?
That's what he said.
In fact, he told detectives that he was just sad, correct?
He told them that he was sad and he was angry.
He told them that he didn't recall hurting you or threatening to hurt you?
He said he wasn't for certain. There was a lot of times he couldn't remember. He was hearing things and seeing things.
So you're saying he said there were a lot of times he couldn't remember?
Correct.
So if the jury heard that differently during his video, they should trust their own judgment?
Anything in the video that he would have said, I would expect them to listen to.
Now, you drove him to Iron Mountain the day that he got admitted to the hospital?
Yes,
And I believe your testimony was that you didn't want to drive him to Iron Mountain. Why is that?
because of what had been happening. I didn't want to be close to him.
Wasn't it true that you had plans with Chris that night?
I don't know.
Well, what time was it that you drove him to Iron Mountain?
I don't know.
And how long was he in Iron Mountain before he was transported to Rhinelander?
It was a while, several hours. They did the evaluation in the emergency room, talked to him for a while. It took them a while to find a bed. So while they were waiting for the transport unit or whatever it was, they had me in a family room in the emergency room.
So if you didn't want to drive him to Iron Mountain because of how he'd been acting, why didn't you call an ambulance?
I didn't think it was an option. I knew he wouldn't go though, or I didn't think he would.
Well, he asked you to take him to the hospital, didn't he?
I don't believe that's true.
No, I believe your testimony previously was that he asked you to take him to the hospital.
He had told me before, but he would never would.
So your testimony on Friday was that you dropped clothes off to him one time and you picked him up. You did not go to visit him at all during that 5 days he was in the
I
hospital?
don't think so.
And I think your testimony also was 5 days isn't going to do anything for him. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You felt that 5 days was a waste of time or what?
5 days is a joke.
What do you mean a joke?
He went in there because he threatened to kill me, wanted to kill himself, was hearing voices, was seeing things, and 5 days fixes them.
Well, isn't it true you told Detectives Brackett and Bellinger on October 28th, 2014 that he was much better after he got out of the hospital?
I did tell him that, yes.
You told him he was like the old Jason, right?
Yes, I did.
So 5 days must have done some good, right?
No, I did not.
Isn't it true that Jason never texted you at any time that he was going to kill you?
He never put it in a text message, no.
No. His texts were about loving you and wanting you to be with him, right?
Not all the time.
No, on Friday you testified he saw you said a psychiatrist, but today you're changing it and saying it's psychologist, is that correct?
I believe so.
Do you know the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist?
Yes, I do.
Well, a psychiatrist can monitor medications, correct?
Correct.
So if he was seeing a psychiatrist, then his medications were being monitored, correct?
Correct.
Now, Friday, did you say that he was having homicidal thoughts after he got out of the hospital?
Yes.
And did he tell anybody that he was having homicidal thoughts after he got out of the hospital?
Tell anybody besides me?
Right.
Not that I'm aware of, but I have no clue.
Now, were you or were you not having intimate relations with Jason after you got out of the hospital?
I was.
And your testimony today is that you were very fearful of Jason, correct?
Yes.
And that he was increasingly abusive over the last 5 years, correct?
Yes.
Now, why have Eric over at your house knowing you could be caught?
Jason wasn't in town.
Was Jason at the hospital when you had Eric over at your house?
No.
Really? Where was Jason?
I believe he was on a field trip for school.
He was on a field trip for school. This is the first time we've heard of this. When did he go on a field trip for school and when did that happen?
I don't know the exact dates. There was a couple through the semesters. He went to, one was somewhere in Chicago. Another one was like a country club.
He went to a country club for a field trip?
Yeah,
Why would he go to a country club for a field trip?
that was a field trip for the class.
So you never told detectives or officers at any time in the last 2 years that Jason went on a field trip for any reason, did you?
Didn't think it was anything of importance.
So you have Eric over to your house and you're not afraid that Jason's going to catch you.
I don't believe he was in town for that.
Why did you have Chris over at your house on the 14th knowing Jason could become enraged and shoot either one of you?
Because I watched him leave.
Well, okay, let's talk about that. You watched him leave. Did you watch him go over to the Saylor house?
No.
You just watched him walk out the door.
Right, he was going to guest room. And then at George Young's.
So today you indicated that you were lying to all three of these men about being involved with the other men, correct?
wasn't really lying. I wasn't asked about it.
Well, you told your mother that you lied to all three of the men, and your father in your goodbye letter to them. Isn't that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. So, were you or were you not lying to them about whether or not you were involved with the other men?
They weren't asking about other relationships. The only one that was Jason.
Well, Eric asked you. He asked you about Chris, and you told him that Chris was stalking you, correct?
I believe I said he was stalking me. He called me a lot.
He annoyed you, and he was calling you a lot, correct?
I don't know the
In fact, didn't Eric testify that you told him you and Chris were done?
Yes, I did tell him that.
So, Jason knew in September that you were seeing Chris, didn't he?
I believe so.
So which is it? You were lying to him about these men and you and Jason weren't separated, or Jason knew you were seeing Chris and you were separated?
We were separated the entire time. There was a lot of things that I didn't want Jason to find out or know of. His jealousy, he allowed me to be what most would call separated, but I don't think he ever allowed the actual separation. He was too jealous to allow that.
So he knew in September that you were seeing Chris, correct?
Based on text messages and everything.
Yeah, and he saw your car at the apartment in September, according to the text messages?
He saw my truck. He might have walked up on it, but he also had put a GPS on my truck and knew everywhere I was.
But the text message on September 16th specifically said that he saw your vehicle at the apartment, and what were you doing there? You were a married woman, correct?
What day?
September 16th, 2 days before we went to the hospital.
I believe that sounds right.
And in that text message, he also said it wasn't the first time he saw you there, correct? Or saw your vehicle there.
Possibly, yes.
Yet Jason, who is so abusive and so enraged and so controlling, never once went to that apartment and confronted Chris, did he?
Not that I'm aware of.
And you were so afraid of Jason that you did not stop seeing Chris and Eric, correct?
Correct.
What is the truth regarding Chris's apartment keys?
Chris gave them to me after Jason was in the hospital and we had talked about it.
So you're telling this jury that he gave you the apartment keys, right?
Correct.
All right. Did you tell the police officers before that he did not give you the keys and that you took them and made a copy without his knowledge?
That was one of the stories.
That was one of your stories.
Yes. There were a couple.
Pardon?
There were a couple.
There were a couple stories?
Yes.
Or a couple times, or a couple stories regarding the keys?
Regarding the keys that was brought up in testimony.
And why lie about the apartment keys?
Why lie about any of it? Like I said, I felt guilty. Chris
Why
wasn't-
do you feel guilty about the apartment keys?
It all goes together.
Okay. So, if Chris had given you his keys, as your testimony is today, why on September 21st did he text you and say he should have left the door open for you and that he would be right back?
I'm not for sure the date that he gave them to me, but I believe that we talked after that. But even after I had the keys, Chris had pretty rough hearing. I wouldn't just walk into his house. I would always wait to have him come to the door. The only time I would ever need to get in with the keys would be if I was starting dinner before he got home.
All right. Well, September 21st, he texts you and says he should have left the door open for you and that he would be right back. And you just testified that he gave you those keys after Jason was in the hospital.
Jason was in the hospital until the 22nd.
So, why did the neighbor see him leaving the rug in the door for you so you could get in on several occasions after that?
That was beforehand.
Your testimony on Friday was that you were in Indiana the weekend before Chris was murdered, is that correct?
I believe that's true.
And you were conducting pool closings?
That's correct.
What do you have to do to do a pool closing?
What do I have to do?
What's the process?
Depends on the setup for the pool.
Well, you tell us, because we weren't there and we don't know much about pools, so tell us what the process is.
You have the water drain down. You take apart filter equipment, clean it out, put an inflatable in the center if it's not an in-ground, and you cover it.
So this is physical work,
Yes.
very physical work.
I always have somebody help me.
Who did you have help you?
I don't remember if it would be my dad or if it would be somebody.
Okay, and what did you mean by that?
My mom has let people, she's got a heart of gold, and a lot of people walk over and say mean things to her, and she's a good woman, and she just let it happen. After all this, I don't believe it's true. I see that she's a lot stronger than I always thought she was.
You told Chief Frizzle you thought your mother was weak because she didn't stand up for herself.
Yeah, she let people say mean things and horrible things.
Including you, right?
Say horrible things?
Yes.
Yeah, I've said a lot of horrible things.
To your mom.
I've said a lot of horrible things, done a lot of horrible things. I allowed my mom to have to stand up, get on the stand and cry because of a phone call that I had to lie in front, to her. It was horrible.
That phone call was just a lie, right?
Yes, it
That's
was.
your testimony?
Yes, it is.
No, you're a daddy's girl, correct?
Yes,
And he taught you to stand up for yourself, correct?
yes.
Now, you testified on Friday that Jason said he was going with the boys to the spa on October 14th.
Yes.
Where was his phone?
I have his phone.
You had his phone on October 14th?
Yes.
Which boys were going to the spa?
I believed it. I didn't know for certain, but it was usually David Saylor, Todd Saylor, and Matt.
And what time were they going?
I don't know. It was at night, evening. They'd go for a few hours, once or twice a week. It was guys only.
So it was in the evening. Would it be before or after supper time?
Supper time being,
You tell me.
it was probably 5, maybe later.
So they went around 5, maybe later?
That's usually when they went. There were sometimes they would go earlier in the day.
So that night, what time did Jason leave the house? You saw him leave.
Probably about 4:30, maybe earlier.
Your phone wasn't broken that evening, was it?
No, it was not.
Okay, so why would Jason leave his phone with you when yours works perfectly fine?
I asked him for his phone
Why did you ask him for his phone when yours was working perfectly fine?
because I knew I was gonna be with Chris that night, and I had been telling him and lying to him that my phone was not working.
Well, you used your phone to contact him on October 13th, so the only day that you actually lied to him about your phone working was October 14th, correct?
And prior to that.
Well, let's back up. You kept texting him from your phone prior to that. There are no phone calls between Jason's phone and Chris's phone prior to that. There are no text messages between Jason's phone and Chris's phone prior to that. And you had contact with him prior to that. So the only day that you actually lied to him about whether or not your phone was working was October 14th, correct?
I don't believe that's true.
Really? You looked at the phone records, ma'am.
Jason had never contacted him prior to this, never had texted him. That's correct. That was from May till October records. May till October 13th, I believe.
Well, and you never texted him or contacted him either because there was no contact from Jason's phone whatsoever with Chris's phone prior to October 14th.
That's correct.
So the only time you lied to him about your phone not working was October 14th.
That's not true. I had told him before my phone was messed up or my screen would be cracked.
It's not indicated in any of your messages, those messages that went back and forth between the two of you with your phone.
Doesn't mean that there wasn't a message. I was told only 50% of those messages were able to be
Well, you saw the messages,
correct.
so you know what's in them, and you were texting him, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, Jason left you his phone. You're lying to Chris about your phone working. You're lying to Jason or to Eric about your phone working. What's the point of lying to Eric about your phone working?
Because I didn't call him back a lot. There was a lot of times he texted or called me and I didn't get back to him right away.
Yeah, you told Eric on the 16th of October that your phone was up and running now, right?
I had no idea.
So the only time that you were, I guess, silent from your phone with Eric was during that same time that you were silent from your phone with Chris, correct?
Before that, I believe I had told Eric that I was having problems with my phone as well.
So, is your testimony today that you were not using Jason's phone in an effort to set Jason up that night?
Correct. I wasn't setting Jason up. There was supposed to be no crime. It was supposed to be me and Chris hanging out and doing what we do.
No, you saw Jason leave the house, but you did not see him actually walk over to Sailor's?
He wasn't heading to the Sailors. He was heading to Gastra's, to Matt Davis' house.
So he was walking to Gaston?
No.
How was he getting to gas truck?
He drove.
He drove to gas truck.
Correct.
So when Chris came over, you didn't see Jason's car parked in the back, or Jason's truck parked in the back?
No.
Well, you told us Friday that Chris parked in the back.
Yes.
And so you did not see the vehicle parked in the back?
No.
Well, you used this vehicle to load up the body to dump him in the woods. Wasn't that where the truck was parked at that time?
No.
No,
The
where was
truck,
the
the
truck?
truck wasn't in the parking spot. Behind the house, there's not really a driveway, but that's where you can park vehicles. There's a garage back there that you can also park a vehicle right behind the neighbor's Art's house, or his garage.
So you're telling the jury today that Jason parked the truck behind Art's house?
I have no clue where he parked it.
Okay. So Jason takes off in the truck. This is what you're telling us, right? Jason takes off in the truck. What time did Chris get there?
Between 5:30 and 6.
And you heard Detective Khan's testimony regarding when the car was parked at the house.
I believe it was 5:25.
Did Chris text you before he came in and said, I'm on my way, or that I'm here?
I believe so, yes. Maybe around that time.
Because there was a text right around 5:26 p.m., wasn't there?
I believe so, yeah.
So 5:26 p.m., you get a text from Chris, 5:25, he's parked at the house.
That sounds right, yes.
And your testimony is that Jason left earlier than that?
Oh, yes.
No. Chris gets there. Which door did he go to?
He went to the front door first.
And you redirected him?
Yes, I told him to go to the back door to the dogs.
Well, weren't your dogs in the bathroom and in their cage?
No. I never saw them.
Where were your dogs at?
In the front two rooms, the mudroom and the dining room, you'd call it.
And why would you tell him to go to the back because of the dogs?
My dogs were very sketchy. Bam was sketchy, we'll say. She'd nip at people, she's bitten at people. Pebbles used to be like that, but she was a lot older.
So what did you do with the dogs?
I left the dogs where they were.
You let the dogs run around the house? Even though they were sketchy and Chris never met the dogs before?
One was in the mudroom, one was in the dining room. That's not connected to the kitchen or the upstairs.
One was in the mudroom and one was in the dining room?
Correct.
Couldn't the dog get back and forth between the dining room and the kitchen?
There's a little doggy gate we had. Little plastic gate. I guess you'd call it like a kid's gate.
Well, wouldn't it have been just as easy to shut the dogs up in the basement or upstairs or in the bathroom like you had in the past?
I had only done that once, and it was because we were forced to. The bathroom gets super hot, and with it being cold, having the older dog in the bathroom was kind of rough because of how hot it was.
So when you're talking about the mudroom, are you talking about that very first room when you come in from the living room or from the front door?
When you come in the front door, there's a room that's maybe like 7 by 8. That's what I would consider the mudroom. And then when you walk past that, you have the dining room, and then you have the living room. In that area, that's separated by the door, and then the doggy gate.
Okay. So rather than putting the dogs in the back, you have Chris walk all the way around the house to the back door and come in the back door?
That was where he was supposed to come in. It was easier, because the dogs can't be put together.
Okay. And was it your testimony on Friday that he parked in the back or he parked in the front?
He parked in the back.
So he parked in the back, he walked all the way around to the front, and then you redirected him to the back.
Correct.
Now, David Saylor was here and testified. Why didn't you have him testify about their plans for that evening of October 14th to go to the spa?
David Saylor didn't really have the ability to always tell the truth, so I didn't think anything that he said would be pertinent for this.
Really? Well, what about one of the other guys who went with him to the spa or were supposed to go with him to the spa that night?
Obviously, they never went because Jason came back to the house.
But they had plans too, right?
Right.
So why didn't you have one of them testify about their plans?
because I didn't think anything would come out as the truth, or at least a couple of them.
So it's your testimony today that you had no plans to kill Chris at all, correct?
I've never wanted him dead.
And you lied to Detective Ogden when you said there was a plan, correct?
Correct.
Now, on Friday, you testified that you told Chris and Eric how jealous and possessive Jason was.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
If that were true, why would Chris agree to come over to your house on October 14th, 2014?
Because his apartment was a mess. Usually his apartment was in excellent condition, and I knew Jason would be gone.
Well, you know Jason is jealous and possessive. You know that he already knows about Chris. You tell Chris he's jealous and possessive. Are you telling us that Chris is an unreasonable person and wants to come over there and get in a fight with your husband?
He knew Jason wasn't going to be there.
So, if the truth was that there was no plan to kill Chris, why not tell the police right away about Jason killing Chris?
If it was that easy, I would have.
He would have been taken out of your life right away.
I didn't believe that was true.
Your testimony was that Chris parked in the back but came around to the front door. Isn't it true that you redirected him to the back door so that Jason could kill him from the basement?
That's not true.
Well, he certainly wouldn't be able to kill him right away if he came through the front door, correct?
Jason wasn't supposed to be there.
Where were you at when Jason left?
When he left,
Yeah.
I was on the main floor, finishing up cleaning, and then I took a shower.
Was your husband of 13 years able to tell when you were lying?
I don't know.
You don't know if he could tell when you were lying?
I don't know.
Could Chris tell when you were lying?
Possibly. I don't know.
Could Eric tell when you were lying?
It's possible. I don't know.
Could Detective Ogden, with years of experience with people lying to him, tell when you lie?
No.
No, you're telling these jurors that you have lied previously, but you're not lying now?
I've lied many times in the past.
Have you ever heard poker players talk about a tell? That someone has a tell when they lie?
Yes.
Did you know that you have a tell?
I have no tell.
No? Not that smart?
Nobody ever said, well, I did say I was smart, but no, I'm not that smart.
No, smirk. Smirk is the word. Is that your tell when you're lying?
I smirk a lot, I guess, or smile a lot.
So, telling your mother you were like that since you were born and wanted to kill people was a lie?
Yes, it was.
Why would you lie to your mother?
It was a cruel thing to do,
Why would you lie to your mother?
because I wanted her to think I was this horrible person, so hopefully she'd forget about me.
You wanted her to think you were a horrible person, so hopefully she would forget about you?
Yeah.
No. Telling Detective Ogden you've been homicidal your entire life was also a lie, correct?
Yes.
Telling Chief Rizzo you didn't have feelings or feel remorse and had homicidal intentions towards the guard and the guy in the transport was also a lie?
Yes. I have many feelings, and the person that sat next to me, I still conversate through letters. He helped me get through a hard trip, 37 hours being locked in a box.
So, let's see. April 30th, when you tell Detective Ogden about this marriage pact and your homicidal feelings and the plan to kill Chris, that was all a lie, right? And the conversations that you had with your family between April 30th and May 16th when you talked to Chief Rizzo, those were all a lie, right?
Yes.
And then your conversation with Chief Rizzo on May 16th after you were arraigned that night at the jail when you tell her you had these feelings your entire life, that was all a lie, right?
Yes.
And your conversation with Chief Rizzo on May 17th when you go on the field trip and show where the gun is and where you threw the camera, where you put the skull, that was all a lie, correct?
I didn't put the skull anywhere. I wasn't lying about. The only thing I was lying about was I was trying to keep up this act that I was a squirrel killer.
Well, we're not done yet, so May 17th you're lying to police officers, right?
Correct.
May 19th, when you talked to your brother, you lied to him, right?
Correct.
And May 21st, when you talked to your mother on this horrible phone call, you lied to her as well.
Correct.
So for a whole month, you're lying.
I lied for longer than that.
But today, you're telling the truth to these 12 or 14 strangers.
Yes, I am.
Now let's talk about the renderings. How, again, was the rendering that we saw from Sergeant Bruno inaccurate?
It was close. That was the pictures, correct? The
Correct.
Pictures. It was close. Chris was facing that way. I was facing the other way. And the only thing that's missing is there's a little bench where you put your shoes on that was behind me. So between me and that one.
Okay, so you're telling the jury that you were face to face with Chris having sexual relations with him at the time of the shot?
Correct.
Despite having told officers several times in the past that you were facing the wall and Chris was entering you from behind?
I told him multiple stories.
But that one was pretty consistent. You told that one several times, officers, didn't you?
Possibly, yes.
Now, this is the first time on Friday that anyone has heard about a bench being by that wall. Have you ever told any of the officers prior to that about the bench being by the wall?
I believe I mentioned it on the 30th and 100%. I don't
Well-
remember much of that day.
On the 30th, in the reenactment, this is a bench that has shoes on it?
That's where you put your shoes on.
Okay. Well, on the 30th in the reenactment video, that bench is actually up by the countertop, isn't it?
By the countertop.
Yeah, by your back pantry there, the countertop.
I have no clue.
Where you put your booze.
Oh, no, that was a plastic shelving unit you're talking about.
Had shoes on it, right?
That's a shoe rack. You don't sit on that, though, put shoes on.
Okay. So, otherwise, you think the drawing was accurate?
Correct.
Now, there is a wall that sticks out there, correct? Where you were having sex with Chris, there's a wall that sticks out that keeps you out of the line of fire, correct?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you know what your back pantry area looks like, right?
Right.
And the landing between where you go upstairs to go to the kitchen and the landing where you go downstairs, correct?
Correct.
There's a wall that sticks out that keeps you out of the line of fire, right?
It keeps me out of the line of fire.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it depends on where the fire's coming from.
What's coming from the basement, right?
Then I wouldn't be on the line of fire.
You're hidden behind the wall if you're up against the wall.
But from the basement, you could still hit me.
If you stepped out from behind the wall, right?
I think I could still be hit there. I never got to see where Jason was. So I don't know. I can't say for certain.
Well, if you're behind the wall, then you wouldn't see where Jason was because the wall would be concealing you, correct?
Correct.
So, this bench being here, this is a new detail, isn't it?
I believe I mentioned it before.
Which video do you, or interview do you believe you mentioned it in?
I have no clue. There's been a lot of interviews.
Mm-hmm. Hundreds of hours of interviews, correct?
Yes.
Isn't it true you kicked or pushed Chris Regan down the stairs?
Never.
Now, your testimony today and Friday was that you lied about all of these things because you felt guilty. That doesn't make any sense.
I guess go ahead.
Isn't it true that you lied about all these things because you didn't want to spend the rest of your life in jail?
The truth is that I felt guilty because Chris couldn't be here.
Didn't you tell your parents that you lied about all of these things because you didn't want to spend the rest of your life in jail?
Yes.
So you told your parents that you lied because you did not want to spend the rest of your life in jail.
I told my parents, yes.
Not because you felt guilty.
I felt guilty because he wasn't here.
That's not what you told your parents, though, is it? You told your parents you lied because you didn't want to spend the rest of your life in jail, correct?
Correct.
And that you couldn't be a caged bird, correct?
Correct. Or a fish in a bowl.
Right, because it's all about survival, right?
What is?
You're lying because it's all about survival, right?
No.
Really? You don't want to spend the rest of your life in jail, you're just trying to survive, right?
I was already in jail.
You are here today trying to survive, right?
Not anymore. I don't have to.
Now, your testimony as you sit here today is that you do or do not have feelings.
I have feelings.
And those feelings included loving Chris
Yes.
and loving Jason.
Yes.
And you were haunted by what happened with Chris.
Of course I was.
And do you think that you're going to be haunted for the rest of your life by it?
No doubt.
No doubt. Okay. Absolutely horrifying experience watching your husband murder your lover right in front of your eyes?
Is that a question?
That's a question.
Repeat the question.
Was it absolutely a horrifying experience watching your husband murder your lover right in front of your eyes?
Watching him cut him up was horrifying. That's something I'll never get out of my head.
Okay, so watching him cut him up, but it wasn't horrifying to watch him shoot and kill your lover?
I didn't see him shoot him.
Well, you guys both went downstairs, right?
Right.
And Chris is on top of you and he's dead, right?
Yes.
That wasn't a horrifying experience?
That is horrifying. But at that point, I didn't know he was shot.
So, on May 17th, you go back to the house with officers and Chief Frizzle, right?
Yes.
You watched that video of yourself, right?
Yes.
You were eating pizza, laughing, and joking with officers in the house while pointing out forceps in the magazine tube, right?
Right.
And you were pretty expressionless when at the house with Detective Ogden on March 30th, too, weren't you?
I looked like I was emotional, and I also looked like I was happy.
That's what you believe you look like?
Yeah.
Okay. So the only part in this entire thing that you teared up on was when your attorney asked you why you didn't grab your .22 revolver to defend yourself from Jason. Friday, that was the only part, and I noted it down, that you actually teared up, was when your attorney asked you why you did not grab your .22 revolver, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Well, you were here.
This is not a normal experience. I'm very vulnerable sitting up here to have to tell this story or to have to go through this.
Okay, so you did not tear up when you talked about Chris being shot in front of your eyes, or when talking about him being chopped up into pieces, did you?
I don't know.
You didn't tear up on May 17th when you were at this house and you're reliving this experience, this horrifying, horrifying experience, did you?
I don't believe so.
No. No, you were laughing and eating pizza, weren't you?
I believe so.
In fact, when it was suggested by the detective that you go and get the .22 revolver while you're upstairs and defend yourself, not by the detective, by your attorney, who was asking you about it, you said, I quote, "It is a lot easier to do these things than to say it."
Correct.
Rather than it's a lot easier to say these things than to do them.
That's, yeah.
But what you actually said was it's a lot easier to do these things than to say it.
Anybody can say these things, but to do it, you have to be, I guess, a different type of person to do something like that.
You said it was easier to do them than to say it.
Then I messed up.
So tell the jury why you thought the car would never be found in the pit.
Because I was told the pit was deep, and if he was going to hide the car in there, nobody's going to look for it.
Well, isn't it true that people fish there all the time?
I don't know.
Do you have any knowledge as to when divers practice in that pit?
No, I have no knowledge.
Well, you know people fish there all the time because you knew the sailors did, you knew Jason did, correct?
I figured they were the only ones that fished there,
Why would you figure that?
because I'd never seen anybody else there.
You should go to the pit a lot.
No,
Well, if you've never seen anybody else there, how would you know who was there?
because in my past, I've never seen anybody else there.
Okay. Well, the truth is that the pit was, number one, too close to your house, right?
It was close to my house.
Yeah. Forensics class taught you probably shouldn't put instrumentalities of a crime near your house.
You're talking about the class I took?
Yes.
I don't think we went into that, to be honest.
Okay. Well, and the second reason you didn't want to put it in the pit was because somebody might see you guys do this with the car, correct?
I have no clue.
Well, you took the car at night, right?
Right, it was night.
Caspian's a populated area, right?
Yes.
So chances are somebody might see you dump the car, right?
Probably.
Now, the DSM-4 manual, why was that in your car?
I always had that on me.
Why?
My mom had bought it for me when I started going to college. Being a psych student, you have to have that book. Not only was it a gift, it was something that I did like reading.
Okay, well, you're done with college. Why did you always have the DSM-4 manual on you?
always had it with me usually, or with my books. That
Well,
was my specialty in school.
is it true that you told Detective Ogden that you would look up mental health symptoms so that you could get pills from doctors?
I might have told them.
And did you also advise Jason on what to say regarding his mental illness?
No.
Were you planning your defense by claiming you were diagnosed with a major psychiatric disorder?
No.
Really?
Really.
That's not what you told your parents, though, is it?
I told my parents a lot of lies.
Well, didn't you tell your parents you've gotten a diagnosis of PTSD, MDD, which is major depressive disorder, and severe depression, and something else which I can't read, when you were in the hospital, that you're pretty sure that even if you were arrested and tried in court, you may have been found innocent or at the very least insane due to these illnesses?
I believe those are my words.
You also said, I had planned on letting it all play out, acting as the victim, and even going forward with the trial, knowing I'd get to walk free. But you guys didn't bring me up that way, correct?
Right.
So you were planning your defense with the DSM-4.
Correct. I've had it for 14 years. I've all but memorized it. That's something I learned for school.
You've all but memorized it?
Pretty much. I also have the Bible with me too.
That same Bible where you told Chief Rizzo you could convince people to believe or not to believe the Bible?
That's true that I told her that. That's not true though.
Which isn't true? Are you lying now or were you lying then?
I was lying then.
So isn't it true you put Chris's vehicle in the parking lot because it wouldn't be noticed for a few days?
I don't believe that's true. It's a high traffic area. It would be seen pretty quick.
Well, isn't it true that people leave their vehicles in the parking lot for days at a time?
I have no clue.
Well, you've been to the parking lot several times, correct?
But it doesn't mean I would know that anybody left their vehicle there for days.
That wasn't the question. The question was, you have been to the parking lot several times, correct?
Twice.
Twice. And if Eric testified it was more than twice, that would be accurate or inaccurate?
It'd be inaccurate. There was twice. Once so somebody could bring me either a radio or tools, and the other time so we could drive together to go where they planted trees for 4-H.
So, have you had experience with carpool lots?
No.
No? Never used a carpool lot before?
No.
And you actually met at this parking lot before, right?
Yes. That was the time we went to the 4-H.
Okay. Now, your testimony on Friday was that you never drove that car and never told anyone you drove that car, correct?
I never drove that car.
Did you ever tell anyone you drove that car?
I seen in the video that I said car instead of truck.
To who?
I believe it was Detective Ogden.
Well, you actually told Detective Bellinger and Brackett that you had been in that vehicle during your interview with them on 10/28, and you told them you had driven it previously, correct?
That was part of the interview, yes, I did say that.
So you slipped when you told Detective Ogden he he drove the car, correct?
I said in the video I could hear that I did say that I,
So that was a slip.
that was a slip because he was asking about hauling away the bags, and that was the truck.
So you slipped also when you told Detective Ogden that we walked into the woods when talking about dumping Chris's body, correct?
I never got out of the truck.
So you slipped also when you told Detective Ogden that we walked into the woods when talking about dumping Chris's body, correct?
What interview was that?
I couldn't tell you, I'm asking you.
Yeah, I don't know.
So you slipped also when you told officers that Chris's blood would be in your truck from hiking?
I slipped, that was the truth.
That was the truth? Even though Chris had knee surgery in August and couldn't go hiking?
We went hiking.
When did you go hiking?
I don't know when it was. It was early summer.
Early summer. Well, you didn't start dating him until July 27th and he had knee surgery in August.
It was in the summer. We went, and I think it was Lake Ottawa. We went to quite a few parks, but like I said, it was the light blue trail. I don't know why I remember it. It seemed wood painted. We walked through a mossy area and he cut himself.
He cut himself on moss?
No, whatever would be in it. It looked like moss. I don't even know if it was moss.
Now, you testified on Friday that Jason made you sit on a 5-gallon bucket and watch him while he dealt with Chris, correct?
That's correct.
Where was the gun at that time?
Which one?
Even one, you tell me.
He had one gun tucked in his pants. I don't know where the 22 was.
You don't know where the 22 was?
Not at the time.
This is a detail that you didn't tell the officers ever in these hundreds of hours of interviews, correct?
Correct.
Wouldn't it be important to tell the officers that Jason had a gun and had you sit on a 5-gallon bucket and watch him?
At the time, I didn't think it was important.
Well, you're claiming that you were abused and you were scared of him. You don't think it was important to tell them that you were so scared of him because he had a gun down there with you? Holding it to your head while you watched him cut him up?
I didn't think it was a big issue. At that time, I actually wanted to be dead. I felt guilty he wasn't here.
Well, then why not let Jason kill you if you wanted to be dead?
Because I don't think he was going to actually kill me, looking back. Because if he did, maybe he would have already done it. I think actually living was a little harder than being killed.
So you don't think he was actually going to kill you?
I don't know. Looking back, I think it's more torture to be alive than being killed that way.
But you've actually told several people that you didn't think he was going to kill you, correct?
I might have said that.
You told Detective Ogden, right?
Possibly.
You told your parents in your goodbye letter, right?
Possibly, yes.
You had told Detective Ogden you worshipped the ground you walked on, right?
At one point, you might have.
Now, were Chris's eyes open when he was killed or when he died?
What do you mean?
Were his eyes open after he was dead?
At what point?
Right after he was dead, when you fell down the stairs with him like you claimed you did and he landed on top of you.
I don't know.
You don't know? Horrifying experience and you can't remember if his eyes were open?
No.
This man that you loved was the love of your life, you can't remember if his eyes were open?
No.
Did you actually fall down the stairs with him? But you did not cut your head like you told Detective Ogden, right?
I hit my head and I did have blood coming out of it, so I did cut it. It just wasn't something I needed stitches for.
Now, had you previously said that there was no blood from the gunshot wound?
No blood where?
I think you told Detective Ogden before that there was no blood from Chris's gunshot wound, correct?
It's possible, I don't remember.
Well, on Friday, did you change your testimony and say that there was blood from the gunshot wound?
In the basement?
Yeah.
There was tons of blood.
Well, from the gunshot wound, not necessarily from dismembering him.
Oh, I don't know.
Why did you lie about the stitches?
Same reason I lied about all of it.
Which is,
Like I said, I felt guilty he wasn't here.
you feel guilty or you don't want to spend the rest of your life in jail, like you told your parents.
I was already in jail.
Well,
Doesn't matter.
if you were suicidal, why not do it?
When I killed myself?
Correct.
I tried.
So you used the sandpaper on the step, right?
I believe I said that.
Yeah. Is that something you learned to do in your forensics class?
I don't know if sandpaper was ever actually used.
Well, you testified on Friday you used sandpaper on the step. That was inaccurate on Friday?
I don't know if it was me that used it.
Well, if you told us that you used it on Friday, was that accurate or inaccurate?
It would be accurate.
Now, Jason didn't have the gun in his hand while he was sawing up Chris Reed, did he?
No.
Did you ever go to a cadaver farm as part of your forensics class?
Not part of the class.
So you've gone to a cadaver farm in general?
No. I said I did.
You said you went to one, but you actually never did go to one?
Correct.
Now, on Friday, maybe I'm wrong on this. This was the first time I think I heard this detail about the hand where he had cut it off and was waving it at you. Did you testify to that on Friday?
Yes.
Did that come up before in any of your interviews?
Possibly. Yeah.
You ever heard of Calvin Peacock?
Yes.
Who's Calvin Peacock?
He was a kid that went to the same school as me. I think he's 3 or 4 years older than me.
And isn't it true that Calvin Peacock cut someone up in a highly publicized case and used the hand to wave at his girlfriend?
Never heard of that.
Never heard of that. You ever heard Calvin Peacock cut somebody up?
I heard he killed somebody.
Pardon?
I heard he killed somebody.
But you never heard that story?
No, never.
So your testimony today would be that you never heard that story and you're not copying Calvin Peacock by saying Jason waved Chris's hand at you?
Correct.
Now, you indicate that you didn't get the bullet out of Chris's skull, but that you made Jason think you did?
I believed he thought I did, yes.
Now, why would Jason think that you got the bullet out?
Because he had me use the forceps in the hole to take out the bullet.
And he didn't ask you about the bullet afterwards?
No.
So he trusted you enough to do as he asked and take out the bullet?
I think he knew I didn't have a choice.
Well, you did have a choice because you didn't do it, right?
True.
So, isn't it true that you told Chief Rizzo on May 17th that the bullet hole wasn't big enough for you to get the forceps open and get the bullet out?
I know just the nose of it fit in. It was small.
Now, your testimony on Friday also changed from talking about the cord for the sawzall. That was a new detail that emerged on Friday. Hadn't you previously told detectives and Chief Rizzo that you went and got the cord for the sawzall so Jason could cut up Chris?
I told him that Jason told me to get the cord.
And you got the cord, didn't you?
No.
That's what you told detectives, and that's what you told the officer, that you got the cord for the sawzall for Jason, correct?
That's true that I told him that.
And Friday was the first day, after hundreds of hours of interviews, that you told everyone you never got the cord for the sawzall, correct?
Correct.
So you lied to the jurors because getting the cord is accessory after the fact, correct?
That's not why.
Well, you changed your story from everything that you told detectives over the past 2 years to now you never got the cord.
Before I added the point that I grabbed the extension cord after he asked so I would make it that I was an accessory, even when I wasn't, when I didn't have a choice.
That doesn't make any sense.
Why not?
Tell that to me again, please.
I had told them that he had me get the cord for the sawzall, which would have been in the basement. Jason had got the cord, but I wanted to make it that I was an accessory at the time. And that had to do with the guilt.
That had to do with the guilt.
Had I gotten the cord for him, I would have been a willing participant.
Is that part of your precise cover-up? Jason made mistakes, but you were pretty precise in your cover-up?
There was nothing precise about it.
There was nothing precise about it? Well, these are your words. You told your parents that you were pretty precise in your cover-up. Was cutting up Chris Regan being pretty precise in your cover-up? Let's talk about what you did after the murder. Now, you were able to talk Jason into not putting the head and hands in acid, correct?
I suggested that the fumes would kill us.
And you were able to talk him into not putting the head and hands in acid, yes or no?
Correct, yes.
You were able to talk Jason into not putting the car in the pit, correct?
Yes.
You were able to talk Jason into taking it to the parking ride, correct?
Yes.
You were able to talk Jason into taking Chris's body to Pantoga location rather than Oss Road or Lake Emily Road, correct?
Yes.
You were able to talk Jason into wearing a hat, correct?
No.
Well, tell us about the stocking hat.
What about the stocking hat?
How did Jason come to be wearing the stocking hat?
The one that is number 49?
The one that was found in the car.
I believe that was Chris's hat, correct? Didn't the DNA say it was Chris's?
Well, didn't you previously tell officers that you told Jason to wear a hat so that he wouldn't leave his DNA in the car?
That was a lie I told him. Jason would know to wear a hat, I'm sure. But I don't know if he did.
So, you're able to talk him into not putting heads and hands in acid, not putting the car in the pit, going to the parking ride, going to Pantoga rather than Oss Road or Lake Emily Road. So what you're telling the jury is you were able to reason with Jason, correct?
I made suggestions.
You made suggestions that he followed, correct?
Correct.
So, this is a madman whom you claim was so enraged and out of control that he killed your lover without your knowledge. Yet you were able to reason with him.
Correct.
So enraged and out of control, he threw the frying pan with the burgers in it after you got sick against the wall, correct?
Correct.
Yet you were able to reason with him, correct?
Correct.
So enraged and out of control, he put a gun to your head and stood over you with it while you cleaned up the blood, correct?
Correct.
Why make burgers and french fries when lasagna was in the oven?
Because I had made it for Chris and Jason didn't want it. But he ended up eating it. And he said, he brought up the point of him being enraged. After he had killed him and he was eating lasagna, I've never seen him more calm for a second. For a second, he's eating something after he just killed somebody.
So he was calm while he was eating the lasagna?
The look on his face, he was calm. I don't know, to me that would be a madman.
Well, but he was enraged while he threw the burgers and the fries.
He was enraged through a lot of it, but to have that calm in between that would be more of a madman than somebody that was enraged through an entire horrible experience.
So, while you were testifying on Friday, I counted several new details. One of them was that Jason took the gun and made you drive to the dump site for Chris's body. You never mentioned to detectives or to officers before that Jason had a gun with him while you were driving to Pintoga Trail, did you?
Correct.
And this is a brand new detail, correct?
Correct.
In fact, your story was every single time to detectives and law enforcement, it was that you backed the truck up to the house, not Jason, and he loaded the bags, and you drove out to those locations, correct?
I believe that's what was said.
No mention of a gun any time during any of that sequence of events previously, correct?
I believe that's true.
You're only telling the jury that for the first time on Friday, right?
Possibly.
If he was put in bags and all taken to the same spot as you indicated to officers, and as you testified on Friday, where's the rest of Chris Regan?
I don't know.
Isn't it true that all of this could have been done outside with rubber totes rather than garbage bags?
What do you mean?
Couldn't you have used rubber totes to transport Chris rather than garbage bags?
I'm sure there's hundreds of ways you could have done it.
And didn't you tell Detective Ogden during one of his interviews that rubber totes were used and not bags?
It's possible.
I believe Detective Ogden questioned you as to why you refused to help Jason carry the bags, since you were clearly the more capable one.
That's not true.
You didn't refuse to help him carry the bags?
Well, there's a couple things. I wasn't asked to do it. I had said that I was asked to do it, and as far as capability, regardless of what kind of physical ailments he had, he was capable of doing anything. Anyways.
So your testimony today is that you weren't asked to do it even though you told Detectives Ogden and Chief Frizzo that he wanted you to take those bags up.
Correct.
And your testimony today is that you refused to do it even though he had a gun.
I wasn't asked, but if I was, I wasn't going to.
You weren't asked, but even if you were asked, you wouldn't do it because he had a gun?
Correct.
Now, regarding the carrying of the bags, that's the first that we've heard about the gun with respect to carrying the bags up the stairs, right?
I don't know.
Friday you testified he had a gun and he wanted you to help him carry the bags upstairs.
He had a gun.
And Friday you testified he wanted you to help him carry the bags up the stairs and move the truck.
There was never a question.
There was never a question that he had the gun or never a question that you were going to help him carry the bags?
A question that I was going to carry the bags.
So, why not just let him shoot you?
I wish he would have.
You felt terrible, right? You felt guilty, right? Why not do something so he would shoot you?
I wish he would have.
If you wanted to die, why not let him use the chemicals to kill both of you?
To use
The acid.
Use acid?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was an option. And using acid at work for the pools, I've had a drop of it on my skin, and it's not very comfortable. I can only imagine how horrible it would be to be burned by acid.
Well, you wanted to die. Why not do one of these options?
True.
You shut the outside light off so he wouldn't be seen loading the bags to the truck, correct?
I did what?
Shut the outside light off so he wouldn't be seen loading the bags in the truck, correct?
I don't know if the light was on or off.
Well, in your forensics class, would you learn that it would be better to do this in darkness rather than in the light?
They never taught us that.
No? Common sense tell you if you're going to get away with a crime, it'd be better to do it at night than during broad daylight?
Common sense would be not to kill somebody.
Common sense would be, it would be better to do it in the dark rather than during daylight? Yes or no?
Common sense would be it'd probably be better to be darker.
Yes or no?
Go ahead and ask a question again.
Common sense would be, it'd be better to do it in the dark, correct?
Correct, yes.
Now, you were all done with cleanup by October 15th? Is that right?
That sounds right, yes.
What time during the day did you finish with cleanup in the basement?
No clue.
Flawless memory, and you can't remember what time of the day you finished cleaning up all of this blood that was in the basement everywhere?
I wasn't actually at 9 o'clock.
But 24 hours you had it done, right? Is that safe to say?
It's safe to say yes.
Pretty fast for no premeditation, wouldn't you agree?
As far as cleaning up what?
Cleaning up all of this blood.
I've never been a part of this or trying to. I have no clue what it would take to actually clean it up if I hadn't been there.
If your goal was to put Chris in a high traffic area where his body would be found, why not put him in his trunk?
I have no clue.
Why not put him on 189 or US 2 Gibbs City Road if you wanted him to be found?
No clue.
Why not a location with a lot more people in houses?
No clue.
When you picked the spot where he was placed,
I made this suggestion because I knew it was a busy road.
and he followed your suggestion, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
And you actually drove to the location, didn't you?
Not by choice.
Not by choice, but that was just a new detail that we just learned about on Friday, right?
Possibly.
Now, I think your attorney questioned Detective Ogden about being an expert on traffic patterns in Iron County. You're not an expert on traffic patterns in Iron County either, are you?
No.
You're not from Iron County, are you?
Correct.
You didn't grow up here your whole life, right?
Correct.
You've been down Pintoga Trail a handful of times or less when you dropped Chris's body off, correct?
Correct.
Now, on Friday, I believe it was still your testimony that you took the car to the parking ride between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. Is that correct?
That's what I said.
And you told Detective Ogden several times that it was around 10 p.m., right?
I told him it was dark out until late.
Well, you actually told him you remembered because you looked at the clock, correct?
It's possible.
And isn't it true the car was at the parking ride by 8:30 that night?
8:27 is what Kyle had said in his testimony.
Do you have any reason to doubt his testimony?
No, not at all.
Now, there were several things that you testified to today and that you testified to on Friday that you couldn't remember, correct?
Yeah.
And you told Detective Ogden, right, that you had this flawless memory, correct?
I had said that and that was a lie.
That was a lie?
Yes.
But yet, when we talked about your ability to remember, you were able to shoot that tax advisor's phone number off to your mom like nothing, right?
A phone number I won't forget.
You don't forget phone numbers? You're better with numbers than you are with anything else, or what?
I have a good memory for phone numbers, maybe from the years working in the business. If I'd see a number, I know who it was.
Well, on the 30th, you told Detective Ogden that you are sure that that was the spot where you guys dumped Chris because you have a flawless memory, right?
That's possible I said that. I was high during that time.
Well, you watched the video.
As he testified, I was sleeping most of the time. That on the way here, he had to call an ambulance because I took a bunch of...
Ms. Cochran, you watched the video. Did you or did you not say that you remember it's that spot and that you have a flawless memory?
That might have been true.
You watched the video, yes or no?
I must say yes.
So any gaps in your memory would be intentional, wouldn't they?
No.
Your memory wasn't clouded by the weather on March 30th, right?
Correct.
Wasn't clouded by it being nighttime when you dropped off Chris Regan, was it?
Correct.
On May 17th, you were able to detect officers right to that location, weren't you?
To the tree?
Yes.
Yes.
Even though it was daylight, right?
Correct.
And you had dropped him off at night.
Correct.
Let's talk about the trinket bag. What was the deal with the trinket bag?
It was a lie.
Why lie about the trinket bag?
To make me look like a horrible person.
To make
Possible.
you look like a horrible person?
Correct.
Well, didn't you initially tell officers that the trinket bag was Jason's?
I eventually said that Jason and me had one. And that it was all mine.
So your story was evolving. Initially it was Jason's, then on May 17th it was Jason's and yours?
I'm not for sure on the date, but that was eventually what the story was.
And you repeated it to both Detective Ogden and Chief Frizzle, correct?
Correct.
And you're now saying it never existed?
Correct.
Jason never had one, correct?
Correct.
You never had one, correct?
Correct.
Jason never killed anyone else, correct?
Correct.
You never killed anyone else, correct?
Correct.
Why say there was a trinket bag?
It was a lie. Detective Ogden had suggested that there was other bodies on the trip from the 30th going back.
And you latched on to that?
I did.
Just like you latched on to being a witness, not a suspect?
Never latched on to that.
Really? You haven't portrayed yourself as a witness throughout this entire investigation up until April 30th?
I wasn't the suspect. I wasn't the one that killed somebody.
Have you or have you not portrayed yourself as the witness up until April 30th?
It's possible, yes.
Yes, and then on April 30th, we hear about the plan to kill Chris Regan between you and Jason. We hear about the pact that you guys had to kill lovers that you made when you got married. And we hear about your participation in the plan, which was to kick Chris Regan down the steps, right?
Those are lies I told, yes.
And that's when you became a suspect, right?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that Jason was smart, but that you were smarter, right?
I had said that, yes.
You really do think that, don't you?
I don't believe that's true.
You don't?
No.
Well, you told your dad and mom in your goodbye letter that Jason made mistakes, right?
I said that, yes.
But that you were precise in your cover-up, correct?
I believe that was the words that were used.
Now, Friday it was your testimony that Jason stood over you with a gun while ordering you to scrub the basement floor with a toothbrush, correct?
He stood over me at the bottom of the stairs and at different points in cleaning up the basement.
Did he have a gun?
Yes.
Which gun did he have at that time?
The 30, the 22 at the bottom of the steps.
And you're saying it was a 38, not a 380?
I had said 380 on Friday, but I think it's 38. It was about that big, a handgun.
Okay. So, where was Jason while you were scrubbing the basement floor?
In the basement,
Where in the basement?
standing over me.
Was he by the washer and dryer? Was he by the pole? Was he by the steps? Where was he standing?
It depended on where he had me scrubbed. It was a big area that had to be cleaned.
This is the first time you told anyone that he was standing over you with a gun while you were cleaning on Friday, correct?
I didn't think it mattered before.
You don't think the details of the crime matter? In the hundreds of hours of interviews, you don't think the details matter?
I think the details matter, but it depends. Like I said, I felt guilty that he's not here and I am. So I wanted to be punished.
You told... I'm sorry, go ahead.
As I said, I was suicidal.
Yet you never carried it out.
I wish I could have.
You told officers you cleaned the floor with bleach, ammonia, hot water, sandpaper, and toothbrush previously, correct?
I believe that was said.
And I think that your testimony on Friday was that you shut down when Chris was shot, correct?
Part of me did, yes.
Part of you shut down?
Yes.
But you had no difficulty cleaning the crime scene perfectly, did you?
I wouldn't say this perfectly, and there was no ammonia used.
Oh, you remember that. You shut down, but you remember that there was no ammonia used?
You just said ammonia and bleach.
You remember there was none used?
The only reason I know that is putting those two together would cause a chemical reaction, which would be very dangerous.
And you said that the crime scene wasn't cleaned up perfectly?
Correct.
Despite the fact that we never got any blood from the basement?
That is the results, correct?
And blood was everywhere in the basement, according to you, correct?
There's a lot of them.
Okay. Now, on Friday, you testified about your forensics class. It was a semester?
Yes.
How many days a week?
It might have been one day that's 4 hours, or it might have been 3 days. It's maybe an hour and 20. I don't remember that.
1 day, 4 hours?
Correct.
Or 3 days, 1 hour?
An hour and 20.
An hour and 20.
I've taken a lot of classes.
Okay. Well, I believe your attorney asked you if one of the chapters in the book dealt with cleaning up blood.
Correct.
And I wrote your response down in quotes because I found it interesting. Not that we covered in class.
Correct.
So did you read a chapter about cleaning up blood that wasn't covered in class?
I read almost the whole book. I seen there was a chapter for that. That was not one that I covered though. There's a few of them I didn't read. The big book.
So you read the entire book, but you didn't read the chapters that dealt with cleaning up blood. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying?
It was a big book. There was chapters that would have covered that. We didn't read that in class. We read almost the whole book. There might have been 6 or 7 chapters we didn't cover.
But you covered it later on your own, didn't you?
No. We didn't actually use the book much in class. They did more hands-on activities and more lectures and everything.
So on Wednesday, October 15th, the day after the incident, you go to Krista's apartment to get your wedding ring and the camera, correct?
I went over there to get my wedding ring.
And the camera, right?
I ended up taking the camera when I was there.
And Wednesday, October 15th, you're still cleaning up, correct?
Yes.
So you tell Jason you're going to get coffee and donuts at the gas station?
Yes.
You said you were going to Holiday?
Yes.
And you got coffee, but not the donuts, right?
I believe so, yes.
How many times have you been to Holiday gas station in Ring River?
A lot. I don't know how many.
A lot? Why not get donuts?
From there?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever got them from there.
Well, they have donuts at the Holiday gas station, correct?
They probably do.
So you got coffee, why didn't you get the donuts that day?
Why didn't I?
Yeah.
I've never gotten them at Holiday.
The truth is you never intended to get donuts and never said that to him, did you?
That's not true.
No, your statement to officers was that you went to Krista's apartment in the afternoon. Initially between 12 and 5, and then later between 3 and 5, and changed it, correct?
I wasn't sure at the time.
Well, between 12 and 5 or 3 and 5?
I would leave it at 12 to 5.
Between 12 and 5? But you don't usually get donuts at 3 p.m., do you?
I've gotten donuts at any time of the day from Angelina's. Is usually where I go.
Wouldn't it be fair to say that donuts are usually a breakfast item?
No.
No?
No.
Not for you?
Not if you smoke pot.
That's fine. If you were separated from Jason or intended to divorce him, why risk going back into that apartment and getting the wedding ring?
I don't know.
You're separated. You want to divorce him. He just killed your lover. Why go back and get your wedding ring?
I didn't want to give him any other reason to be upset.
Isn't it true the presence of the wedding ring in the apartment could easily be explained by your affair?
What do you mean by that?
Well, your testimony was that you took your wedding ring off to have sex with Chris.
Correct.
So, if you're having an affair with somebody and you take your wedding ring off to have sex, it's not unusual to have a wedding ring in the apartment, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so, same thing with the camera, right? It's not unusual for people to take pictures of themselves having sex, correct?
Correct.
And you said that you and Chris took a lot of pictures of yourselves, correct?
Correct.
And if you're separated from Jason, why risk going back into the apartment to get the camera?
The risk wasn't to get the camera, it was to get the ring.
We took both of them, right?
Correct.
So you claim you cried when you went into that apartment. That's what you told us on Friday, right?
That's correct.
This is a new detail, isn't it?
I didn't think so.
Well, you told Detective Ogden that you did not cry when you went into the apartment, correct?
I also told them I had no feelings.
True. But you told him that you did not cry when you went into the apartment, correct?
That sounds correct.
And you never told any of the other officers that you cried while you were in the apartment, correct?
I don't know if anybody else brought it up with me.
Why did you really go back into the apartment that day?
To get my wedding ring.
And the camera? That's it?
That's it.
So your testimony on Friday was that you were deathly afraid of Jason, right?
Yes.
You've been in an abusive relationship with him for years, right?
Correct.
He was a monster, right?
He'd become one, yes.
And you also told your parents you were a monster, right?
I believed it.
Okay. And in fact, you said that you never went with Jason to Ashland, Wisconsin or Menominee area, right?
Correct.
Your testimony on Friday was best to stay put based on what I had seen, correct?
Correct.
Jason was vicious and controlling, right?
He had become that way.
But Jason trusted you and let you go wherever you wanted when you wanted, didn't he?
He didn't trust me.
He let you go to the gas station, right?
Yes.
He let you go drive past the remains, right?
I never drove past them.
Oh, well, you told everybody that you drove past them. You told Chief Rizzo, you told Detective Ogden. I think you told the jury on Friday that you drove past them.
No.
No? Never drove past the remains?
I didn't drive past the remains.
Okay. So, you went to the apartment, right?
Correct.
And he left you alone for, let's see, what time of night was it? To like 3:30 in the morning while he went to Ashland and Menominee and Houghton?
I don't believe he went to those places.
Really? Well, you heard Detective Kahn's testimony, correct?
I did.
And you previously said that you had no reason to doubt Detective Kahn's testimony, correct?
Based on the telematics exam from his car.
Yeah. So, Jason left you alone while he went to these locations. He trusted you, didn't he?
Jason didn't trust me.
You could have left at any point in time while you were by yourself to go to the police department. Isn't that true?
That's not true.
Oh, that's not true?
No.
You couldn't have gone to the police department when you went to the apartment on October 15th?
No.
You couldn't have gone to the police department when you drove by the apartment on October 16th?
No.
Why couldn't you?
I didn't believe I had a choice.
Did your feet not work? No gas in the car?
No, both worked.
Okay. So, you were so afraid by Jason murdering your lover that you contacted Ericson on October 23rd, 2016 and told him it was good sex weather, didn't you?
Yes.
And you continued to text with him, picking up where you left off, starting on October 16th, 2016, 2 days after Chris's death, right?
That sounds right.
You were so afraid of Jason, so afraid of getting caught, that you texted Ericson on October 16th, 2 days after your lover was murdered in front of your very eyes and chopped into a bunch of little pieces. Right?
That's not true.
It's not true that you contacted him on October 16th?
Why I contacted him.
Why you contacted him? You told him that your phone wasn't working, but now it was working, right?
I was trying to reach out to him.
You weren't afraid that Jason was going to shoot Eric?
That's why we never got together.
You weren't afraid that Jason was going to shoot you if he caught you contacting Eric?
I was more concerned for him.
Well, Eric didn't respond to you the way you wanted him to if you were trying to reach out to him, right?
I kept blowing him off.
Pardon?
I kept blowing him off. I wasn't returning his text right away.
Why would you reach out to Eric?
Because he knew a little bit of what had gone on, that I was having some issues.
What special powers or authority does Eric have to keep you safe?
None. That's why I never met back up with him.
So wouldn't you agree it's illogical to reach out to Eric when he can't keep you safe?
In a sense, I didn't believe anybody could.
Wouldn't it be more practical to reach out to law enforcement? Didn't you put Eric at risk by reaching out to him when your husband is crazy and abusive?
I did.
So you put somebody else's life at risk
I did.
instead of contacting the police.
Yes.
Now, I only caught part of your testimony on Friday about the 380, but now you're telling us that it was a 38, right?
Right.
Did Jason have the 38 in his pants or out when the cops were at the door at your house?
In his pants.
Which time was that?
You're talking about when they first came to the house?
Yeah.
So what's your question?
When did Jason have the 380 in his pants when the police came to the door? Was it the night that they came to ask you if you'd seen Chris, or was it a different time when they were coming to talk to you?
When he had just finished smoking and he lied to them saying that I wasn't there.
Okay. Why did he have the 380 in his pants?
Because somebody was at the door with him.
Was that common practice for you guys to put a gun in your pants to answer the door?
It is when you're not expecting somebody and it's late.
And it's casting?
Yeah.
Okay. So, didn't you tell Chief Rizzo that you had grabbed your .22 revolver and also put that in the back of your pants when the police were at the door?
I said that, yes.
But you never told law enforcement before you told this jury on Friday that Jason had 380 in the back of his pants, did you?
I don't know.
You never did you?
I don't know for sure.
Didn't tell Detective Ogden and you didn't tell Chief Rizzo, did you?
No.
Now, I think that your testimony on Friday was that you were cooperative, right?
Cooperative at...
With the investigation, correct?
I gave him my phone. I love him questioning us.
Okay. So for the search warrant of your house on March 5th, 2015, you showed the police where the .22 revolver was, didn't you?
The one that she dropped?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And Jason was right there, right?
I believe so.
Okay. You never showed them, though, where the shotgun was, correct?
I didn't know where it was.
You didn't show them where the .380 was, did you?
I knew it wasn't there.
Where was the .380?
I don't know where you put it.
Well, if you knew it wasn't there, where did you think it went?
I have no clue.
So you claim to be cooperative, yet you actually showed Chief Rizzo a gun that had absolutely nothing to do with the investigation, correct?
But the question was that she had asked, is there any weapons in the house or any guns in the house? I believe.
Okay. And you didn't, but you weren't completely honest because there was another gun in the house, correct?
We told him that there was another gun, but I wasn't sure where it was.
So you actually gave her a .22 revolver that had nothing to do with the case.
She asked if there was weapons in the house, and I told her about it.
So you lied then about the magazine too. You didn't tell her about the magazine too, did you?
I didn't remember that until we went to the house in May, or right before that.
You didn't remember where you hid the gun that was used to commit the crime until May?
That was a magazine too, that's not the gun.
Oh, it's part of the gun, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you were pretty specific in telling us how Jason took the gun apart and where the magazine tube went and where the barrel went and where the stock went, right? So that's another piece of misdirection?
You're talking about the magazine?
And the revolver.
The revolver was asked about, the magazine I didn't remember at that time.
So on November 12th, 2015, when you were in Indiana and they were executing a search warrant on your truck, you told them where to find the Sawzall, correct?
Oh, when they showed up at my job site?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were in the car, and I asked to see the search warrant to see what they were looking for. They, on the sheet, Sawzall was there, and they might have mentioned that they were impounding the truck to look through it. I told them that in the box in the back of the truck, the Sawzall would be on the left-hand side.
And you were cooperative in telling them where the Sawzall was, right?
Yes, because they were asking for a Ryobi Sawzall, which was in the box.
But you knew that that Sawzall had nothing to do with the instrumentality. It had nothing to do with the crime, right?
That's correct.
So another piece of misdirection for you?
Wasn't misdirection, I answered what was asked of me.
Now, by using Jason's phone that evening, you made it appear as if Jason contacted Chris, correct?
When I called him?
Mm-hmm.
No,
On the 14th?
no.
Well, can you tell Detective Ogden that Jason was the one who had contacted Chris that evening?
I might have, I don't know.
Taking Jason to the location.
Changing topics here, Ms. Paul.
This is as good place as any to stop, Judge.
All right, members of the jury, we're going to take our noon recess. Let me out a few minutes early. We have our schedule. Is that 1 o'clock? Or is that flexible?
I'll do what I can do. I'll see what I can work out.
All right. Again, my caution about who to talk to and what to talk about. Don't do any independent research, no visiting of the scene, and you haven't heard all of the evidence yet, so please keep it open.